Welcome to the bright side of the moon, a journey of magic and wonder, and most of all, beauty.
Chapter 10 The Rose City, Marrakesh. The Genie Photo Shoot. The French Tour of 1974. A French soft drink company who produced a bitter lemon drink called Genie approached the Floyd to do some advertising for them. It was to be the first of its kind for the Floyd to allow the use of their image in a publicity campaign. It would prove to be an embarrassment later, but it seemed at the time a lucrative adventure. But hey, we would get to go to Morocco and be in the magical Rose City of Marrakesh. David and a few friends had gone before and spoke of it very highly. Genie booked us into the famous La Mounia Hotel, which previously had been a historical palace of the Rose City and then converted into a luxurious hotel. As we entered the lobby of mosaics and carved plasterwork, a man was walking away down one of the corridors. He had long hair and was wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I commented to David that he looked a bit like Mick Jagger. David said whimsically, "That may be because it is Mick Jagger." Being in the presence of all these rock legends was very new to me. I only ever saw them on telly, in a magazine, or at a concert. And everything any of us, the normal public, knew about them was from the music papers and gossip. Here I was, within their world. Mick was on holiday with his baby Jade and his nanny, and Bianca had just left. Later, we were to meet up with him for dinner and a night out. We had the afternoon to explore amongst all the alleyways and bazaars. Everywhere was lined with tradesmen who tried to lure us to buy their carpets or wares. It was a bustle of tourists and a mixture of many cultures, Arabian, African, and European. One could only enter its mystery by walking deeper and deeper amongst the pink terracotta walls. Each corner spoke of its history, reminiscent of a bygone era nestled at the base of the Atlas Mountains. Didn't I tell you I had become a culture buff? The next morning we had to drive out of the city and into the desert. For miles and miles, the vast colors of the earth surrounded us. It was hot and dusty as we drove along the dirt roads further away from civilization. At one point, we came upon a billboard in the middle of nowhere saying, "Timbuktu, 52 miles by camel." It was a T-junction in the sand. Our driver turned left, and we were in convoy followed by the film crew. Finally, we reached our next hotel, where we were to stay until the photo shoot was finished. I think it was about 2 or 3 days. We had to get up early before the sun rose, so we set our alarm on our watch. When it rang, David went in to get out of bed and started into panic. I can't see. The room was darker than any room I had ever been in, but I did remember that there was a box of matches and a candle on the desk. I felt my way across the room, found them, and struck a match. David was not blind. It seemed that the hotel turns off the electricity at night, and being so far away from the city, there was no ambient light. We had breakfast and resumed our journey further into the desert. What was amazing to me was that even though we seemed alone in this vast, desolate space in the middle of nowhere, came walking 3 African boys. They were curious as to what was going on. I suppose they saw our dust trails and followed them. One of the evenings, the promoter arranged a special dinner and a traditional Moroccan concert. We sat outside on pillows covered in the traditional tapestries before low wooden tables. A feast awaited us. Terracotta plate after plate kept coming, full of traditional delicacies. I was so worried that we might have to eat raw eyeballs from some local animal. I felt this way, for earlier on, Steve O'Rourke had told me that it was a delicacy, and if we turned it down, our host would take it as an insult. I'm not sure whether Steve was winding me up, but fortunately, this didn't happen. The French tour was in 1974, and the photographic session had been in 1972. So, 2 years after the Genie shoot, the Floyd did 5 gigs in France, which turned out to be rather diabolical, to say the least. They had forgotten that in their contract with the French company it entitled them to advertise and sell the drink at every gig. The idea of what the promotion would be from the ad agency was far beyond what fit within the image of the Floyd. Needless to say, it did not sit easily with their fans either. They coveted the image of the Floyd as being a underground group. Consequently, Steve O'Rourke, their manager, worked at bridging the growing gap between the band and Genie. Thus, the oversight did not go well with the Floyd. So many times I felt sorry for Steve, being the punching bag and the go-between, but that was only to be the beginning of the nightmare. At each gig, a circus of trendy, groovy people sporting leather jackets and dark glasses carrying Genie Bitter Lemon signs bombarded the show. There were painted vans, banners, and Easy Rider bikers. The road crews were thrilled, for there was a collection of page 3 models bearing their breasts who kept them company in the evenings. Steve O'Rourke was constantly negotiating how to keep them away, or at least at a safe distance. Besides a distraught Floyd, the fans were also very bothered by the whole bravado. This was not their Pink Floyd. So we went gig after gig with our Genie entourage, the Floyd embarrassed and feeling guilty, for they thought they had taken easy money. They decided to give what they had earned away to charity. I wonder, was this easy absolution? I have no idea. For the fans, some of the glitter wore off around their idols, which I don't think was so bad actually. It was a reality check for all of us, including the Floyd. I know the band looked at it very deeply and wondered, are we creating and being inspired by music that transcends? Or is it the glamour of being a star or an audience taken by idol worship? Who knows? But from an inner point of view, it was really good stuff because the affair served to challenge everyone to question, what is it all about? I have to say, Marrakesh was absolutely wonderful. Very different than America for this American, but it has left a very deep memory, including the night that Mick Jagger took us out to dinner. He arranged for the band and us to go to a very wonderful restaurant. And in the end, he suggested that Dave and I get in his car with his driver, and all the rest of the band would follow in a taxi. I'm afraid the rest of the band got lost because Jagger's driver was going very, very fast. So we went to a club and we were in the corner. The next thing you know, Mick got up, was dancing wild dance like in the movie Suddenly Last Summer, and everyone was pawing him and he was loving it. While we sat quietly in the back corner waiting for the moment to go back to the hotel. And when we did, they were all sitting there in the bar wondering, what happened to you? And David just chuckled. So the next day, as I said, we went out into the desert, and after the shoot, David and I rented a car and we went driving throughout Morocco to a village called Essaouira, where David had been before, and it had the most amazing smell of lemon wood because they made tables and bowls and all kinds of things in lemon wood. And he found the man from whom he had bought his marquetry table that I believe Alice, our first daughter, now has inherited. And when we went there were all these men sitting around the table. I was the only lady, and on the wall was this enormous portrait of Jimi Hendrix. So they were obviously very into that music. And next thing you know, I think the wife came in with some green tea, mint tea actually, and they always had this wonderful silver teapot that poured the tea from a high distance into these lovely little glasses. The next thing you know, they started to pass a pipe around of hashish. And of course, when it came to me, the man to my left passed it by me to give to David. And apparently, only your husband or your partner can give it to their lady, which he did. But I have to say, things got very psychedelic after that, and we laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. I shall never forget the laughter. It's so contagious. Anyway, on to the gigs. The Blackberries were some wonderful American ladies that sang the backup songs and things like that. And we got on really, really well. And there was this one afternoon when they were having a photo shoot with the press out in like this little courtyard garden, and I was standing at the door watching them in blue jean hot pants and a broderie anglaise blouse. And I didn't know it, but the photographer took a picture of me standing there. And lo and behold, when we got on the little plane the next morning, I was on the front page. They called me Mrs. Gilmour. Of course, I wasn't. We weren't married then, but anyway. I had that paper clipping somewhere, but it seems to have gotten lost. So, it's a memory now. I hope you enjoyed this chapter because it has a very special meaning to me. Morocco is a special place. So, let's go to chapter 11 now. Thank you. Bye.
On the news, just guns and